We worked with wrist last week, and we're going to continue with that. As Tom so beautifully explains, we have a bit of wrist action in most of our movements. Now, I was exploring this on Wednesday in the regular class, and I recognized that I have much more mobility in my wrists now than I used to. And the reason why I recognize that is because it's much more effortless to do postures like bass drum, which we'll look at. But we have our neutral position, and you'll notice we have what's known as the lion's mouth, right? So it's just a gentle curve. The fingers aren't splayed out. It's not smashed together. They're not exactly karate choppy. There's just a nice opening. Now, sometimes what happens, and something to observe in myself, and maybe you have that awareness as well, is when the thumbs tend to jut out. And just notice the tension, and then relax the thumbs, and drop the thumbs, and relax the thumbs. So often that's a tension that we don't become aware of because we use our fingers all the time. And so just something to be aware of when you do your Tai Chi practice. So here's our neutral position. Here's our open position. And we use this open position in many of our movements. The one that comes to mind right now, of course, is light at the top of the head and light at the temple. Some people have more range of motion and longer wrists and fingers than I do. So you will notice some variation. And then this is a closed position. Now, ideally, we don't want this closed position because what happens? Everything falls out. Everything falls out of the barrel, right? So we use neutral and open position whenever we can. And oftentimes we'll see this closed position when we do positions like wrist circle taffy, sometimes carry the ball to the side. So today we'll explore bass drum and the positioning of the wrist and its connection to the Tan Tien. Now, one last one is this, which is I'm not saying goodbye, but you'll feel this as you do movements like working the pulley, right? We move it around, or push, pull. So this is also a valuable range of motion for our wrists. And I'm noticing here, my tendency when I do this is to open my fingers. But again, it's a very gentle position for fingers and thumbs. Now let's keep our hands up here for a moment. You might already be noticing that your shoulders are getting a little tired. Last week, we talked about heavy elbows. And when the elbows feel heavy, or we imagine the elbows to be heavy, the shoulders relax. When the elbows are heavy, what I'd like for you to feel also is the wrists get heavy. And here we are in our pause position. All right, pause position here. Where do the hands rest and how are the wrists? So we think of just a nice piano keyboard perhaps, and just a softening of the wrist. You can still see that I have this lion's mouth opening in my wrist. In this particular movement, the wrists elevate slightly so that we start high and then we drop down. So side view for this, pause position, and actually they gently come up. Go ahead and try it. Pause position. Start with the wrists up. The minute the wrists begin, the weight shifts. And then as we step forward, the wrists release, the fingers drop down. Now, as we come up, it's as if you had strings on your wrists, pulling you up. The Tan Tien draws you back, and the fingers gently glide up. And continue. So another way of visualizing this, as we focus from the waist up, is water droplets rolling off your shoulders to your wrists, and then you flick the fingers up. However, it's the wrist movement and then relaxation that brings it back. And now try it a few times with straight arms, and you'll notice there's tension in the wrists when you straighten the arms. Yet another reason to experience your bass drum with softened elbows. Yeah? We'll do one more and come to pause. All right. So now, taking that information and maybe just feeling a little bit of how your wrists are responding right now, let's look at daughter in the valley. So daughter in the mountain, daughter in the valley, of course, go together. But the daughter in the valley is similar to bass drum, but not exactly. So front view, pause position. We'll step out with the left foot. The hands have to come up, much like they came up a little bit in bass drum. As we rock forward, the wrists allow you to lead down. Tan Tien, as the hands come up, the Tan Tien pulls it back and we release. So notice at no point in time do I actually drop the wrists. They swoop down, they stay in neutral and open position. And I'll show you a side view here. And one more, you'll notice that in Daughter in the Valley, the palms are a little closer together. In bass drum, they're roughly, 8 to 10 inches. But Daughter in the Valley, they're a little closer. And then let's do side view. Other side. So again, the wrists come up, but my elbows are heavy. So just experience a little weight onto the elbow. The hands come up, shoulders stay neutral and relaxed. As we shift forward, the hands glide up, the Tan Tien brings everything back. And we'll do one more here. And come to pause. All right, so I just wanted to feel that comparison between bass drum and the obvious Daughter in the Valley. But what about Daughter in the Mountaintop now? As we come into pause position, the wrists open. We shift the weight, the wrists open. As we come forward, the wrists cross. Now, what I've been noticing in class is that the wrists are coming higher than is necessary. Again, the shoulders are lifted. So coming back to your pause position, shift, step, elbows are weighted. And now the wrists cross right around the sternum area. And they draw back to the Tan Tien. So in each of these three movements, you can feel the connection of the wrist to the Tan Tien. And even here, as I rock back, at no point in time do I drop the wrists. They simply open. So there's that side hand wave almost in this position, and rock forward and back to pause, pressing that heart fire down. And again, a side view here, Daughter on the Mountaintop. You'll see the Tan Tien. You'll see the Tan Tien drawing the heels of the hands back. I'm paying particular attention to not dropping my energy by dropping my wrists. And of course, whether you're on the right side or left side, the left hand stays closest to the heart. Now here it is a little closer to my body and a little lower. My elbows just got heavier. Interesting, huh? Let's do one more. And back to pause.
I'm noticing that I have a feeling that this is encouraging more blood flow to do it this way. So also Linda, when you were saying that by dropping the wrist, you're kind of you're dropping the energy, but you're probably also blocking when you do that.
I like the concept of having the elbows heavy. It forces me to keep them down more at my side and just do more activity with my wrists. So that was very helpful for me. in the valley, I thought I was supposed to bring my hands up much higher and move my elbows up. So it was much more relaxed this way.
For me, keeping the idea of heavy elbows in every movement, really, I found it an amazing softening, and also a slipping down the back where there's a more connection with the middle back to the Dan Tien, and that sense of upright posture that's very gentle. And just the thought of heavy elbows helps. So when you do the practice, kind of keep that in mind. Just, are your elbows heavy? Not stiff, but heavy.